Hello, welcome to another video here on the Rosey Life. Today I want to talk about a question that comes up quite a bit in the comments and in my sessions, and that is how to stay in the power of I am. Or what people are really saying is, how do I stay in the wish fulfilled? How do I remain knowing that I have what I want? How do I secure and reassure myself that I'm going to get what I want? That's what that question is really coming from. Because when you imagine your desire, when you affirm who you are, it can give you feelings, elated feelings of bliss, of happiness, of joy, of power even. And then anything that you are doing during the day, like thoughts or feelings, and you think that that is kicking you out of remembering who you are, and then you go on a quest and try to remember and remind yourself all day long that you are in charge, that you are God. And that is just going down the rabbit hole of those archaic techniques of going back and relying on techniques to save you, that you need saving somehow. And this is why you asked a question of how do I do this? What do I do? For how long do I have to do this? Because you're still waiting for either your desire to save you, your manifestation to save you from feeling the way that you do, or you're waiting for the right technique on the right channel to save you, or you're waiting for something, the right words to click, so those will save you. Still seeking outside of you for something to save you from what you're feeling, from your misery, from your feeling powerless or victim, or feeling like it's not working. And this is where that question is, how do I stay in the power of I am? How do I stay in that knowing that I am God and that I am all I desire to be? No matter how many scriptures or books that I or anyone else can quote, no matter what, nothing will save you. Only you can. You are the answer. And I remember hearing this from, I think it was Bashar. He says, it's universe. It's your universe, Y-O-U. It's your universe. In other words, you are the answer. You are how, you are why, you are when, you are all of it. And it's an understanding of that, not a practical steps, logical thinking of it. And today I want to work with a little bit of that, to work a little bit with this logical side that we all have. We all have it. And we're all trying to beat it up, and we're all trying to beat it and outsmart it, and we're trying to tame it, or we're running from it or avoiding it. But no matter what, you can't beat it, because it's not supposed to be beat. It's supposed to do what it's doing, thinking. So I pulled out the whiteboard. Okay, so how to stay in your power. That's what a lot of you want to know. And I just explained to you why you asked that question. When you ask how, when, where, why, how, when, where, why, about any of this, any of your desires, right? You, remember it's universe, you trap yourself into all frustrating thoughts and feelings. When you ask how, when, why, where, you trap yourself into all frustrating thoughts and feelings. So for those of you who are asking about, quote, intrusive thoughts, you getting triggered, you having spirals, I want you to know, when you ask how, when, where, why, you trap yourself into frustrating thoughts and feelings. Your frustrating thoughts and feelings, or anxious thoughts and feelings, sad, angry, all of those unwanted feelings and thoughts, they come from you asking yourself how, when, why, where. That's where they're coming from. That's the key. That's the solution. To realize that that is the cause. of your spirals, of your overthinking mind, of your nail biting worry and feeling awful is coming from you asking when, where, why, how. I hope that's so clear, because when you really understand that, you're gonna stop with this, because this will never give you the answer. No coach, no book, no video, no meditation. It'll all be a temporary fix, but it won't be long until you're back on this little horse of asking where, how, when, why. Because until you satisfy yourself with your truth, with you being the answer, you knowing that it's you, you'll keep asking someone else and reading and looking and searching. So I want to talk about this because, as many of you know, I was a therapist for over a decade. And these are the kind of conversations that I had with some of my clients, because a lot of them would come in self-proclaiming, self-analyzing themselves, self-diagnosing themselves as being a left brain or right brain. And many of you have heard that, right? That, oh, I'm more of a left brain than a right brain. Like I worked with music artists, actors, financial gurus. Like I worked with a huge variety of people. And they would self-diagnose themselves as being a right brain or a left brain based off of their behaviors. So they labeled themselves, in other words. But what I want to share with you is that you have both. You're both. And one being more dominant than the other, like this is not what I'm trying to get in the conversation of. What I want to show you is a bigger picture than labeling yourself as left brain, right brain. I want to show you a different perspective of what this actually means metaphysically, because that's what we do on the Rosey Life. I'm not a therapist anymore, but I do like to bring these examples that many of you are used to using to describe yourself with. So the left brain is logical, linear. Okay, you guys Google this, anybody can find this information. Okay, it's like Psych 101 stuff that people like to play with. So the left brain is logical, linear, factual, verbal, it's sequential, space, right? It's like sequences, practical steps for all of you, right? Space, this is what it identifies itself as, right? Very realistic is how they would talk about themselves. I'm a very realistic person. I need facts. I need steps. I need to know how it works. Otherwise, I'm not interested. I need the proof. I need to see it before I believe it. That's the logical person, okay? The right side brain is considered creative, artistic, imaginative, emotional. Okay, this side of the brain is how people identify themselves when they're an artist, a painter, a writer, or whatever, right? They're like, oh, I'm this. No, I'm that. And this side of the brain, right brain, is considered a dreamer, unrealistic. Okay, remember this, okay? Because I want you to remember this, because we're going to come back to this. So that's for the physical 3D explanations, okay? This is lower mind talk. We're not going to be discussing the lower mind, lower level thinking of these two. If you're identifying yourself as one or another, I got news for you. You're both. I don't care if you think you're this one or this one, you're still both. You're both. You have both. Flat out. This is the physical you. This is the spiritual you. And you all have both. For all of you, sorry to disappoint you, but you're all not a right brain, or you're not all just a left brain. Not one's not more dominant than the other. You have both. You all have both. Okay, so let's get to this from a higher perspective. In Matthew 6:3, it says, but when you give to the needy, which needy here implies the lack, your needy thoughts, your thoughts that you have, that you don't have, that you're without. That's the needy, those with less, to that side of you, to those desires that you want. You want something, right? So, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. The Bible is full of metaphors and analogies about the right hand of God, the right hand of the throne, right? A lot of the casting of the net on the right side of the boat with the fishermen, right? There's a lot of right analogies, right hand and righteous thinking. There's a lot of reference to right in the metaphysical interpretation of scriptures. Okay, so, but when you give to the needy, remember, to that lack side of you, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Why? Because the left hand will analyze it. In other words, when you give to yourself, when you give to the needy, when you give to yourself, do not ask if you can, or is it possible? How? When? Why? Can I, without the 3D, know that I have this? Can I, without the 3D showing me, feel that it's true? Can I, without the 3D evidence, believe that I'm going to have it? How do I believe? How do I have conviction? How do I have faith? Where is it? But for how long? When is it going to happen? When is it coming? But how? That's you letting your left hand know what your right hand did. In other words, the right hand, remember, is your creative power, is the imagination. That's what the right represents. It's the righteous thinking. It's the righteous judgment of everything. It is where you are in Christ consciousness. Just because you've identified yourself as a right brainer your whole life doesn't make you more powerful than someone that's identified themselves as a left brain. I want to get that out of the way. Okay, those are just labels. So when you imagine, when you give to yourself, don't ask if you can. Is it possible? Can I have it? For how long? Can I feel this? But what if I've never experienced it before? But what if I don't know what it's like to be married? What if I don't know what it's like to be wealthy? But what if I don't know what it's like? You're trying to logically, right there, do you see? You're trying to figure this out logically and linear. When you're wanting answers, give me practical steps. How? But what do I say? How do I say it? And for how long? I did it. It didn't work. All the logical. Remember, your right brain, or the righteous thinking, is actually realistic. This is realistic. This is unrealistic to think that you have to have it all figured out. So we see literally and spiritually, we see with our inner eye. What's the inner eye? Your imagination. That's your creative power. That's how we actually see. Literally, we see. And what I mean by literally and spiritually is if you Google information on how our eyes interpret information, our eyes are interpreting information based off of what our brain is saying that is there. Our eyes create it. It's not there and then you see it. Your brain is actually sending messages to your eyes, and it creates a reflection to create an image that you're looking at. There's nothing out there for you to say that's solid, that's real. You are literally creating all of it. But how does the brain decide or make a decision on what it wants to see? Your imagination. That's you, your creative power. That's why you always see with your inner eye, literally and spiritually. There's no way around it. You're always seeing with your inner eye and nothing more. So we see with our inner creative eye, not the physical eye. That's why you hear, don't judge with your senses. Don't judge based off of what you see. Don't judge a book by its cover. Stop looking at your 3D and saying, that's what this is, that's what that is. And if you're going to look out, you judge it based off of the new version of you that you chose yourself to be. You label and call everything by the name that you chose for it to be based off of your new identity. And I love this because even I looked at this scripture too. It's like the right side, right? Your right side of your brain, which is creative, artistic, imaginative, emotional. That's all of that creative power, okay? So right side in John 21:6, it says, is always the side of truth. That's the side of truth, the side of power. The nets are filled because you are in touch with the infinite source. So when you choose your right side, meaning what you imagine, what you assume, what you affirm, that's the truth. And when you say this is the only truth, that's when your nets are cast full of all your desires, of everything you want. But in order for you to think with this righteous judgment and see with this righteous vision, you must completely let go of this. You cannot hang on to this perspective and expect to have a full net. If you are still asking how, why, where, when, you're still here. This is where you want to be. This right side of the brain is your Christ consciousness, the I am. When you declare I am, when you imagine, affirm, whatever you do, those techniques, why I say the techniques are not even needed, because they're literally a middleman. They're permission slips to give you to say, oh, I choose this. I choose this. That's all they are. Techniques are just to help you verbalize or articulate what you want. But you don't even need it because you have an imagination. You're imagining all day long, whether you think it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you think you can see images or not. You're imagining all day long. That's just who you are. You are imagination. That is who you are. You are 100% imagination. Remember, you are literally seeing through your inner eye. Even if you think that you're seeing through your eyeballs, those eyeballs are just a reflection of what you're seeing with your inner eye, with your imagination. So when you are saying how, when, where, what, you trap yourself into spirals. You put yourself into intrusive thoughts. You feed yourself those thoughts every time you ask how, why, where, when is it? I did a video like a couple months ago when I talked about once you stop needing the 3D to show you that what you're saying is true, you won. You won. That's mastering manifesting. I think that's the name of the video, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, I don't know. That's the name of the video, I believe. But I'll find it and I'll link it below. Once you master that I don't need the 3D to show me anything to know who I am. I don't need it because all of these questions on how, why, when, where, it's because those, remember, evoke the feelings of the frustrating thoughts and feelings of lack, of your fears, of doubts. You are invoking those yourself. when you're seeking. Once you stop needing the 3D to prove to you, to validate to you that what you're declaring is true, that's how you know you won. You get to a point where I don't even need the 3D for anything because now I get it. This is my game. This is the game that I don't need the 3D to prove to me, to show to me that I am powerful, that I have everything that I want. And the moment you say but and how, but when, I've tried it, you're back into the logical game. And it's almost like a lot of teachers, I think A Course in Miracles kind of talked about this too, that it's the logical side of you is the ego. For those of you who worship your analytical self, that's the ego, and it loves you. It wants you to stay in that logical, analytical side of you, asking those how, where, when, why, and for practical steps. It loves you. It's like, hell yeah, I get to stay longer, because it knows that you are identifying with it, the ego, not with who you are, with that I am, that Christ consciousness. And I think it even says the ego, it feels threatened when you start going to your righteous thinking, to that right, to that imagination, and you trusting it and not what you see. It feels the threat of you letting it go, and it doesn't want to let go. But remember, the ego is just made up. It's just thoughts, feelings, behaviors. That's all it is. It's like you've believed in it for so long that you think that's who you are, and that ego will do anything to keep itself in place, which is where your how, when, where, why questions is. When you put all of your identity into that I am, and I don't need to see the evidence. I don't need the person to call me to know that I'm with them. I don't need the money that show up at the bank to know that I'm abundant. I'm going to make a video soon about all these definitions that I think is going to be very helpful to many of you. But I don't need anything outside of me to look any different, to be any different, to know that I have it. When you're there, wow, damn, game over, or game begin. Game over, because you won. There's no more back and forth of it. Yeah, you still have feelings and stuff happens or whatever, but you already know the game. You already know it's part of the game. Do you see? So this is total freedom. Knowing who you really are, identifying with who you really are, is freedom. And the moment you say, how do I do that? You're back in the logical game. This is a game. Do you want to keep asking, how do I get into the I am? How do I stay in my wish fulfilled? You're back in the logical game. It's that simple. Catch yourself every time you say, how, where is it, but when? You're back in the logical game, and there's nothing good that's going to come out of that. You'll get some hits, and misses, you'll get some hot and cold, you'll get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it won't be long before you're trying to figure out how to manifest the other thing, because you're so badly wanting to control it through logic and linear. Do you see? Facts, steps. You're either in your power or you're not. And the moment you say how, you're not. It's that simple. I am is just is. When you say you are, you are. There's no how. If you're asking because you're feeling off or you're feeling bad, that doesn't mean that you're not in your power. Remember, every state has feelings. But until you learn that thoughts and feelings are part of that logical game, and even in the right brain, just remember, this is not metaphysical. This is psychological, okay? But even over here, it's emotional. Why? Because through your imaginal acts, Through when you imagine and you create, it involves emotion, because when you see it and you get excited and you have a good idea or whatever it is, or even a fear, you feel those things, okay? But that's not who you are. Remember, who you really are is that I am. You are greater than it. You don't have to figure out the thoughts and feelings. Once you master it, remember, the 3D includes your thoughts and feelings. Your thoughts and feelings are in the 3D. They're not outside of it. Your thoughts and feelings are in the 3D. All your identities, all your possibilities, those are all there, but you aren't those. Remember the hand that I did with the different realities? You are source. You are the core. You're the heart of all identities. These different versions of you, wanted and unwanted, you are not those. You are this. This is who you are. You're none of those. You're what gets to have fun or experience any of these identities. That's who you are. These are all possibilities or options for you that you get to play with. But you're not those. You're the I am. And this right here, it doesn't have any time, space. It's not feelings. It's not thoughts. It is life itself. It's existence itself. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't change. It doesn't move. This is the eternal moment. And you get to experience how I want to experience the eternal moment from here, from here, from here. I think I did. A lot of you guys really like the analogy of the fire pit. And if there's a fire pit with chairs around it, and depending on where you sit, you're going to have a different perspective of that fire. Same thing, right? We can talk about analogies all day long, but the main point is that you are source. And you get to experience yourself through different versions of yourself, but you're none of these, you're this one. And any time that you're asking how, when, why, where, you're up here trying to figure things out, you're not in your source. So you want it, when you have any kind of question, how, when, why, where, you want to go up and think, wait, I'm source. I'm not these identities. I'm not these thoughts and feelings. Let me rise in my awareness, in my consciousness, and start there. Remember who I am. And from there, I decide which experience that I want to have. Because I'm not these identities. I don't need to figure out these identities. I don't need to figure out my thoughts and feelings. They're just in this game. But I'm the one in charge of it all. All right, my loves, I intend this video was helpful. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you guys so much. And thank you for your comments and for liking the video. And thank you, members, for being here. I will see y'all soon. Right, bye.